I was kind of a selfish boyfriend sometimes. I wasn't really considering how you feel. It was always about, is this the right relationship for me to be in? Because
on the menu today at Sarah's Soju Cafe is hana, makgeolli. So grab your mugs and let's chat about the male perspective on commitment. You ready?
I'm ready. I'm so ready.
Welcome back to Soju with Sarah. And welcome, James. Welcome back to the podcast that you are on pretty much every week.
Thank you. It's really good to be back. And I hope everyone enjoys seeing me this week.
You have a nice shirt on today.
Yes. It's a Brazil knit jersey. Woo!
You have a little tuft there that's been pulled out.
The courtesy of Moose.
Anyways, welcome back everyone to today's episode. Today we're talking about love. However, today we're taking James's perspective on love because usually the podcast, I think, has a more female-oriented gaze. Not too much though, because you're on the podcast most of the time. However, I do think I tend to share a lot of my perspectives and my experience as a woman in their 20s. And we wanted to bring in James to talk about his experience. So today you're the focal point of the episode. And how does that make you feel?
Well, first off, I just want to say, I get it. All the women out there, they're like, the last thing we need is the male perspective on something. The last thing we need is a guy to say something about whatever. And that's pretty valid. However, we're running out of content. So we want to give you guys the male perspective on things this time. And I think it's interesting to compare. I think it's interesting to compare the female and the male perspective on especially love and relationships. I feel like that is the most universal topic. And so, yeah, hopefully we can kind of drop some nuggets of information and I don't know, have some interesting conversation.
Yeah, I love that. By the way, today's drink is so strong.
Do you want to introduce the drink of the day? Actually, I'll do it, I guess.
Yeah, you can do it because it's yours technically. James got the pick today on the drink because it's his episode.
Yeah, it's time for the man to pick for once. Okay, sorry, that's the last one I'll do.
This is gonna get you canceled.
No, yeah, I'm not gonna do those jokes. Today we have hana makgeolli, which is a Korean rice wine brewed in Brooklyn. Hana is the brand, and my friend Jeff, who is a Korean American guy.
Hi, Jeff.
He graciously gifted me a bottle of hana makgeolli, so that's what we're drinking today. It is a little stronger than I anticipated, and so, we're dealing with it, but I love Korean rice wine.
It's 16% alcohol.
16%.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong. There's also flavored rice wine drinks out there too that are pretty good. This one's more the original, but I digress.
Is makgeolli rice wine and then hana is the brand?
Hana is the brand.
Okay.
That's right.
Makgeolli.
Quick
question. Do you usually drink rice wine cold or lukewarm, like room temperature?
I feel like it's usually kind of chilled.
Okay.
When they serve it at bars and restaurants and stuff. However, I am not that knowledgeable about Korean stuff, so I think it might be room temperature sometimes.
Okay, because this one's room temperature, and I think that makes it feel stronger for some reason.
I think that's how alcohol generally is.
Yeah, it's stronger when it's room temperature.
It's just kind of grosser too,
Yeah.
Not that it's gross.
Not that it's
hana,
gross.
if you want to sponsor us or something.
We love it. It's just very strong.
Yeah. But let's do a cheers.
Okay, cheers.
Don't let this face deceive you. It's enjoyable when chilled, but it's not chilled.
Zoom in on his face. I know we're being sarcastic, but it's actually pretty good.
It's pretty good.
This is really good rice wine.
No, it's good. It's great.
Rice wine reminds me of barley tea, which we drink a lot on the show, but it's just the alcoholic version of it. But there's something grainy
grain-based
about it.
beverages, right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Okay, well, today's episode, by the way, is a companion piece to the one that I did solo called Don't Let Your Boyfriend Stop You From Finding Your Husband, which a lot of you guys liked. And I'm glad you guys liked, and I wanted to do a follow-up, but I feel like this was a worthy topic. And I guess I didn't even think to ask if you wanted to do it solo, but I felt like you would probably prefer that I'm here. I could be wrong.
I
though.
think doing that episode solo would be my worst nightmare.
Okay.
So I would love to do it together.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
So today is Don't Let Your Girlfriend Stop You From Finding Your Wife.
Or don't let your girlfriend stop you from finding your husband.
Oh, scandalous.
Shall we dive into the episode?
Let's dive in. So I think today's episode is going to be a larger discussion around the male perspective with love, dating, choosing your partner in life, whether you have that much choice or optionality, and then also the bigger question of commitment, like when and how you decide to commit and the different stages that you've been through navigating this experience. And to disclaimer, because we love disclaimers on this show, James's experience is probably not representative. Actually, it's most definitely not representative of other people's experiences. However, I think it's a good peek into some small things that other people can relate to.
I guess like before going into all of this, I know we had a 7-year relationship episode, which if you haven't seen that, you should go back and look at it. It was earlier in the podcast that we did that. Some of that information is going to overlap, but I'm going to try to make it a little bit newer. But yeah, I would say a lot of my experience, I think, was kind of colored by the environment that I grew up in, which was I was kind of the only Asian kid in a predominantly white area. And so I'll be like completely frank with everyone here. Like, I don't think that I know that I'm not the most good looking guy. That's like not my quote unquote value to people. And so even if in that environment there were a lot of Asian people, I don't necessarily think that I would have been like the beauty standard. I know I wouldn't have been.
You're
I do
the
think
most handsome man to me, though. Just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Not out of obligation to say that, but because you are.
I think to you, handsome is like a moral character, not a physical description.
You have a handsome mindset.
Thank you. That's all I can ask for from you. And so even, I think it was just the environment that made it a little harder, just because, you know, I remember hearing one time, there's that line, like, you're pretty good looking for an Asian. And I think that person just didn't know what Asian people looked like, so she gave me that compliment.
Was it someone your age or was it someone who was older?
She was our age, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, you're like, oh, thanks. You like feel good about yourself, but then you're like, that's a little weird.
Yeah.
I didn't really date seriously at all or really date anyone until we started dating.
Yeah.
And I think that also informs a lot of the attitude I had about our relationship and the mindset that I had, especially at the beginning. And we can talk about how that evolved. But I don't know. I feel like I'm just like taking a long-winded answer, but like also in high school, I went to a Christian private school, which had a class size of like 50 people. And there was a total of like literally like 4 girls in my classes. And it was like, it'd be a class of, let's say 24 and 20 of them are guys.
Wow.
And I think that tells you all you need to know. So even though I really wanted to kind of date, you know, I loved watching The Notebook. I was like, yeah, I'm a guy who likes The Notebook. Yeah. I was a little bit of that type of person.
Wait, did you ever share that with the girls? I guess the 4 girls at your school. Is that?
Oh, I did for one of them, yeah.
I
bought them a copy of The Notebook.
Like the book?
I think I was trying to like rizz her up. No, the book. No, the DVD.
Wow.
I don't think it worked, but
How did you give it to her?
I think I just gave it to her at school or
That's
something.
not romantic.
No, it's not romantic. I don't know what I was thinking. That's actually really I've just thought about that for the first time in like many years.
I've never heard this story.
Yeah, because I didn't think about it just till now.
Okay.
Yeah,
there was no context around it. You just like handed it.
No, I think we had talked about it or something at some point. And
I see.
I was like, yeah, I love The Notebook. And she's like, I haven't seen it. And oh, you should see it. Let me like, this was before like Netflix was huge, I think.
That's actually really sweet. If a guy gave me a copy of a movie they like.
Yeah. I don't think she was that into it though necessarily.
Was she not into you either? Or
I don't know. We went to like a school dance. Back then it's like you see one girl who's like semi decent. Not to say anything about this girl, like, you know, great person. Nothing at all being said there. It's just more like, how do you know what you're into if there's like no
options?
There's not enough to see of it, you know what I mean? So any crushes that I had, really, I feel like I didn't take too much stock in them just because I was like, what does that mean? There's like 4 people who I could even possibly have a crush on, so like this, what is this, you know?
Yeah, that kind of sorry, I want to keep this episode mostly for you, so I'm not going to try to interject too many stories, but that literally reminds me of the story of my first boyfriend. Not really boyfriend, but it was literally, there were 3 guys in a school of like 200 girls. And because it was like a special program school, it was humanities and arts. So naturally there were just
this is your middle school?
This was my middle school. And those 3 boys just dated every girl in the school.
I can only
imagine. Like they took turns. Yeah.
That probably messed them up for life. Oh, you dated him?
I dated one of them. He burned a CD with all the music that my friends said that they liked and put it onto that CD and handed it to me, but he was too shy to like say anything, so he just like gave it to me and then left. And then
this was for your friend?
This was for me.
Wait, so why did he put on music that your friend liked?
No, that my friend said that I liked.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty romantic.
Pretty romantic.
Yeah.
But anyways, all of the guys turned gay after
really?
middle school. Yeah, that they don't want to date.
Gay. They were gay.
Well, yeah, they
came
were
out
gay.
of the closet.
But I guess dating that many women, you know, Ari, just remove this part.
No, I think that's actually really...
I'm not trying to be politically incorrect here. Please.
That's actually really... I mean, I think that's better than if they were straight, because I think if they had that experience in middle school dating all these girls, I think they'd go into college and high school being like, yeah, I can date anyone, like date any girl, you know?
Yeah, that just reminded me of that story, because same exact thing where there's like no options, and so you just end up dating everyone.
That's actually really funny. It was like the reverse. Yeah. I guess the closest I came to potentially dating was I think my junior or senior year. There was this like Korean exchange student who came, and I think she was like a year younger than me or something like that, and we were definitely flirting. Like we were definitely like texting and stuff, and it was kind of weird just because like I don't know if I'm divulging too much information, but like my dad was a pastor, right? So part of his ministry was that he would minister to kind of the Asian like foreign exchange students that came to our school. I won't get into the dynamic of like private Christian schools and like foreign exchange students, but that was like at least one aspect to the school. And so it was weird because like my dad is the pastor to these people, and then I was like kind of flirting with her and she was like flirting with me and stuff like that.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, no, it was fine. And then, you know, I gave her like a ride home a few times from school. My sister was there as well. And then I think this is where I realized I'm like an avoidant person, because I was obviously like kind of like expressing interest, not explicitly, but just by like how we were talking and like messaging frequently. And then I think she indicated that she likes me. Oh no, she had someone give me a note that she wrote in Korean.
Oh, that's so cute.
And she was telling me that she liked me. And then I kind of got like freaked out by it. I got spooked by it. She gave it to me at like a football game, and then I was like, yeah, and then I think I like rejected her.
Wait, why though? Because if you liked her, then you could have dated her.
I think I was just really avoidant. I don't know why.
I guess that didn't change once we started dating either.
No, yeah, I think that was like the first early instance of it, and I think I just got spooked by the idea of like, and also I didn't want to go to my dad and be like, I'm gonna like date this girl or something like that. And I was like close to graduating soon anyway, so I was just kind of like, let me just keep focusing on the academics and stuff. I'm not like necessarily proud of the way that I handled that, but yeah, that was like my dating history until college.
Yeah,
I basically didn't date at all.
Yeah. I mean, you were young. Also, one thing I wanted to ask about is because you mentioned that you were the only Asian from where you were at, besides like foreign exchange students. What was your ideal type?
What was my ideal type back then?
Yeah, back then. And then compare it to what your ideal type is now.
Well, back then, my version of that question, or my friend's version of that question, was like, what race do you like the most? Or something like that. It was like, do you prefer Asian girls or white girls or whatever, you know? So that was like a question I got posed a decent amount. And actually back then, sometimes I said white girls, and I think that was just because I was kind of brainwashed into thinking that was because that was the, you know, that was the beauty standard, I guess. But my type, I really loved the manic pixie dream girl type of thing, because, you know, those movies are like fun to watch. And basically those types of girls are super artsy, super funny, super easygoing, easy to get along with. And, you know, so it's like Zooey Deschanel in like 500 Days of Summer, but before the realism happens in that movie. Yeah. I think I was looking for that type of girl. Yeah.
I see. Sorry, one note about the race thing. It's funny now that I'm thinking about it, because I remember when I was with my friends in school too, I guess it was just a bigger question of like, do you want to date someone who's has the same culture as you or not? Because I remember my friends and I would always talk about dating someone who's Chinese versus not, because then it's like, oh, my parents can't speak Chinese with them if they don't speak Chinese. So then for a while I was like, I can only date someone who's Chinese, which is like a flawed way to think, because obviously I didn't end up with one. But yeah, for some reason race was a huge topic of discussion when we were younger.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like people look for distinctions of their types like no matter where they are, because like when we watch Singles Inferno, Korea is so homogenous, but they still find ways to like find types.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I love like cat face types, and I love like slim types and stuff like that.
Yeah, V shape, V line neck girls.
Yeah, so I guess people always look for differentiators to indicate like this is the type of person that I like, you know.
From what it sounds like, you had not that much experience in high school, wanted your manic pixie girl because of media and culture, and then college.
So yeah, in college, I don't know, I feel like there's some part of me that's a little hesitant to share stuff, because I think as much as like Sarah depicts me in a really positive light on this podcast, and I think I am a great person now, if I humbly say so.
You're a great person back then too.
Thank you. I think I was really immature and underdeveloped as a person. I think I was really insecure. I think I had a lot of those types, I don't know, a lot of issues stemming from insecurity. And so I think when Sarah came into my life as a romantic partner, I kind of like couldn't believe it a little bit. And I don't want to pose myself necessarily as undateable back then, but I felt undateable. And Sarah was someone that I really admired back then, not just from a looks perspective, because I did think she was really pretty, and she still is. Actually, she's even prettier.
No.
I think that would be weird if I said you were prettier back then. That would be really weird. I'm like, okay, like
it's just like you're being honest.
Cradle robber or whatever. I felt I had won like a winning ticket to the lottery somehow by mistake. Like I found it on the street, and I'm not allowed to let go of this.
You see my tears.
Yeah.
I don't know why this is affecting me so much.
Oh, well, it's true.
You probably did find me on the street though.
Yeah, on Prospect Street, which is the street where we all went out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were definitely there. So up until that point when we started dating, like we obviously knew each other already, right? And so I did really like you as a person, and I had a crush on you freshman year, right? Like we had talked about in the other episode. But like the reason I didn't pursue things further after that first year, and why I kind of closed myself emotionally off to you as a potential like interest romantically, was I was like, there's no way she's gonna be into me, because I already kind of knew you probably had an idea that I had a crush on you freshman year.
I did,
and
know.
I knew I kind of could tell like you weren't like that into it, and so I was like, why would I try more? Because I know, here I am not feeling as dateable, and then I think you were kind of an ideal type in a way, like not in a way that sounds bad. I think you were an ideal type. I was like, she is Asian, she's very pretty, she is a very like different type of looking Asian person that I personally am really interested by.
You mean like the Goofy's girlfriend type looking?
Yeah, I always tell her she looks like Goofy's son's girlfriend, right?
Oh, he has a son?
It's like the Goofy movie, and it's about his son, Goofy's son. And the Goofy son has a girlfriend, and you look like her.
I can't deny it nowadays.
Max's
but
girlfriend. I think his name's Max in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can't deny it. I do look like her.
Yeah, you do. But prettier.
Oh.
And so I think when you did decide that, because once you like expressed a certain amount of interest, I was like, I gotta like latch on, baby. Like we need a date. I think you were somewhat hesitant in the beginning, but once you decided like that, you were down to date me, I was like so clingy, I think, back then, and so sensitive. If she said anything to indicate, let's say she was, this didn't happen, but let's say she was like, oh, this celebrity actor is like really good looking.
Oh yeah.
If that happened, I would probably like, what do you mean? Like, are you sure?
You would get mad that I would say anyone else was like
I was like so sensitive, so insecure. I was like, she's gonna leave me, like she's gonna realize she made the mistake and blah blah blah. Which I know, looking back, that took a mega amount of patience and kindness to endure. And so when I really think about like the first few years, or first, let's say 2 years, 1 to 2 years of our relationship, I'm like, she's a saint. I have no idea who that guy was back then. Like, you it sounds really bad.
Okay.
Like, it sounds really bad. I feel like you like rehabilitated me into the version of myself that like I should have been, rather than I think who I was at that point. Which, like, I don't want to discredit myself. I think I was a really nice person and kind, not like a nice guy, but just a kind person. I think I was interesting back then too. I was funny, but I just had a lot of issues like with identity and who I was, and like insecurity and all that.
Yeah.
Which I still do, and I for some reason openly share about on the internet.
Not because your girlfriend forces you to.
No, you don't force me to. One thing I wanted to say. This is a thought that I had. If any girls are out there thinking that they just met this guy and he's maybe a little uglier or like less like desired in a dating sense, but they're really nice and they're a really good person, you think, and you get along well.
Maybe let me finish it, because you have less credibility than me as the girl.
Do you know what I'm going to say though?
Yeah. You should give them a chance.
Oh, I wasn't going to say that.
Oh, wait, what?
What were you going to say? You should think twice about the assumption that type of guy will be better for you or treat you better just because you think they might hold you dear to their heart necessarily.
Oh, whoa. That's like very raw and honest.
And I'm not saying that because like that's a representation of our relationship, but I do see like versions of that thought like snowballing and turning into a guy who I feel like I've seen stories on the internet of that type of guy, and they're like flaming that guy. They're like, he's so not good looking and not a catch. Why is he treating this amazing girl like not well at all? And so where I'm taking this conversation is I feel like for a period I was like, oh, am I undateable? Like I've had these experiences through middle school, high school, like not much attention from the white people around me. I go to college, honestly kind of glowed down a little somehow since from when I was in senior year of high school. Somehow like I got less good looking and attractive, which is not supposed to happen that way. But then
Not.
Sarah and I started dating. I was like, I got the freaking lotto ticket. But then once we started being long distance after college, things were a little bit rougher. And I do reflect on that time, and I recognize that I was kind of a selfish boyfriend sometimes. I wasn't really considering how you feel. It was always about, for me, like thinking about, oh, is this the right relationship for me to be in? Because XYZ reasons, like we're long distance, it's the pandemic just hit. Like, I don't know where I want to go with my career long term. And even though Sarah was really great long distance, like she would be honestly carrying our calls sometimes. Like maybe I wouldn't be in the mood to talk, but she would be so like just giving her best effort at like trying to connect with me. Sometimes I was just so low energy, and I reflect back on that. I'm like, who do you think you are? You know, like when you're with this person, that is amazing. And so the reason I said that just now is because I am undateable, quote unquote. Then some amazing girl comes into my life, and then suddenly I'm like, oh, I am dateable, I guess, right? Apparently I'm dateable. So if I truly felt like I was still undateable, I wouldn't be thinking like, oh, I don't have that much experience. Is this the right relationship? Am
Like
I like
doubting.
making some big mistake by like making this big commitment to this girl that I've been with for 2 years? Because 2 years is usually the point where you start talking about long-term stuff. And so when we were talking about the potential of marriage and all that, I got a little spooked by it, to be honest, as a young guy. And I think that was even more like exacerbated by the fact that I didn't have relationships before. And now I suddenly was like, oh, I could have more relationships, I guess, right? Like if this amazing person is like giving me the cosign, then maybe other people like see that in me too at some point. Not that I was looking around at all. There's none of that. But it's just, you have the thought a little bit. You're like, is this the right person? I have no idea because I haven't been able to experience something else. And so I definitely don't think I was that uggo guy who treats girls poorly. But I see why there are a lot of those guys out there, because I think
once you get the ego boost, you kind of like go with it and you start creating the new narrative, and then you start thinking beyond, what your limitations were.
Well, like let's be honest, right? Ugly people are people too, right? And
the way you're saying it is so derogatory, but
we exist. I'm lumping myself in there. And I think there is some level of like, oh, ugly people aren't allowed to feel or operate a certain way that like better looking people are. And so I think once you do get some level of validation that you can operate like a better looking person would, then you're like, oh, I don't have to limit my life decisions in a way that I used to, because I actually do have the ability to be like or act like a better looking person does.
Like I don't have to limit myself to the one option that presented itself towards me. I have more options because now it's clear that I can.
Yeah. And again, I really want to stress that I was not like that. But let's be honest, like a lot of guys, including myself, I feel like do get lucky with a girl that sees something in them that they really like. And guys like me should and need to and do, in my case, hold on to that for dear life because they got really lucky. But other guys, I think, look at that as a sign that they are hot shit, and like there's a reason I got that girl. Like I could get better or whatever. And so my advice, and I really, really hope this doesn't get clipped or I get torn apart somehow for giving this very like raw and honest advice or feedback, which is if you're a girl who thinks that there's a guy who's maybe a little less attractive or a little less desirable, but you're thinking that he's definitely gonna treat me way better than any of the like F boys I've been with will, that's not necessarily the case. I think it's truly like so case by case on who that person is. And so you shouldn't just automatically find assurance in the fact that they are quote unquote different than the guys you used to date because they are like more homely or whatever,
That was a really long description. I knew you were nervous because of the way you were like stopping every two words. You were like, and I think that if you're a guy with
I was like sweating my way through that entire thing.
Yeah. Wait,
I hope they understand the intention behind what I'm telling
think,
them,
yes.
because I think it is something that
it gets
I've never really heard anyone say.
Yeah.
But it's like I've kind of realized it a little bit, you know?
I'm so glad you said that, because I think it's just hard to say that truth, that you still have to take a risk. Like, even if you make a decision to go with someone that you think is more secure, there still is a risk that they won't be secure. Right. And I think like what you were saying is a very valid thing that I think the girly pops should hear, which is everyone's still the same type of person. Like, all sorts of, attributes, personality traits, like external variables affect people the same way, regardless of how attractive, how desirable or not desirable someone is. Like, there's always, with love, there's always the risk of being hurt by the person that you love. Going back to the topic of this episode about commitment, at that 2-year mark, you weren't ready to commit. I was very seriously talking about marriage and the future. And at that age of like 23, 23, a lot of guys aren't ready to commit. And at the 2-year mark especially, I felt like at that point, I was like, oh, we are established. We are a thing. Like, we should talk about these things. And I think you weren't ready at that point.
Yeah, I was not ready at all. I think I got spooked by the idea of having to tell you whether I'm ready to get married by X date. Not that you gave me the ultimatum to say we're going to get married by a certain date, but you wanted some assurance that I was ready to get married.
Yeah.
In a rough time period of the
Yes.
next, like, let's say a few years or 2 to 3 years or something like that.
Yeah. I wanted to be married by 25. So
Yeah.
it was a little bit early, not early for some people, but I think early for us. Yeah.
So connecting this to my earlier point, then I started to think like, wow, I have literally no dating experience. And like, how do I know if this is the one? I don't know.
Mhm.
Like, there's no really good way to say whether you
know someone's.
At least back then, I didn't realize, or I didn't know if there was really a good way to understand whether this is the right person or not. And so I very explicitly said and knew, like, I'm not looking to date other people, but I did break up with you and I very much regret how I handled it, especially at the time. My feelings behind it were obviously valid and something to talk about, but I think I just saw it as like, I need to extract myself from this relationship because I felt that I didn't know what I wanted to do with my future. And you seemed like you needed someone who you seemed like you wanted someone who knew what they wanted to do with their future.
Yeah.
And so knowing that, I didn't view it as a true partnership at the time because of my own fault. Like, I didn't think of what it meant to be a partner. I really just thought of it as like, this is commitment. I need to commit myself to something. And I just didn't feel I was ready for that. And I was like, what if I go here or take this job or leave my first job that I'm at to do something different? Like, how would that even work? And I don't want to go into all the detail again because that was covered in our past episode. But yeah, I just was all of that together, and with the pandemic and being long distance at the 2-year mark, I think I was just like, I don't really know what to do. Like, I think I need to feel like I'm not stringing you along anymore because I don't know what I want to do. And so let me figure myself out and let you go and like live your life. And like I told you at the time as well, and it's like true. I wasn't looking to date anyone. I was like, I think I need to take time for myself and just really sit with myself and understand who I am. So that's not why I guess called it off.
Well, we all know that the second year, the 2-year mark, is when you either break up or decide to continue. Like, it's a big pivotal moment. But do you think for a lot of guys, or most guys, that's just the case? Like, you feel tethered? Actually, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask about. The feeling of being tethered to someone, or like your life decisions being tethered to another person. Is that what scared you the most? Because I always felt like it was, quite frankly, a little ridiculous that you would give me these reasons for why you felt like you couldn't be in a relationship, which is like not having your job figured out, not being able to travel. That was like the silliest thing, because I was like, I want to travel. Like, what do you mean you can't travel with me in your life? Is the biggest reason that you and maybe some other people cannot commit just purely the fact that you feel like your life is too enmeshed with someone else? Or is it some other reason? Sorry, I don't mean to grill you.
No, it's just like, I'm not sure. It's hard to generalize. I feel like for a lot of guys, it's so subconscious and just like ingrained a little that it's really hard to articulate why you might feel that way. You just do, right? It's just like a strong feeling of you're kind of anxious because you really like this person or love this person like I did, and you don't know what to do with this one opposing feeling versus like this other feeling that is love versus like, you know, flexibility. I don't know, independence, freedom.
Independence, yeah.
Sometimes it's also, you know, there is an obvious like societal expectation for the guy to maybe provide more, and I know that's like that expectation's getting broken down more as people like you make more money than me as a guy. That's like a pretty common thing nowadays. However, I think there's still some level of expectation on guys like that, and so I guess subconsciously maybe guys feel like, I feel like that's such a classic guy reason, right? It's like, I need to figure out my career and be ready financially before I commit to having a family and all that. That's such a common guy thing to say, and I know it's really eye-rolly to hear that, and I'm pretty sure I said that to you at 23 or 22 before I was conscious of like how, you know, I'm just like every other guy who says that. I think it's a lot of things colliding at once. One is just you still feel like a kid in a way, like who wants to try different things, and you can't try different things if you have to answer to someone else, you know. Another thing is like there's just a lack of like biological clock that guys have and don't even explicitly realize that is what drives a lot of the differences between guys and girls. I think guys feel like they have infinite time, which is honestly a little true, right? Biologically, they kind of have a 20-year longer window probably, and so there's just way more like, oh, I could do whatever, and I can't do that necessarily if I'm with someone else.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and I think guys also overestimate what they could do and what they would do with their time.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, a lot of guys, including myself, wouldn't really do that much. Like, was I really planning on traveling? I mean, it was the pandemic, but was I planning on doing all these different things with our like several month break? I didn't do much, you know?
Yeah.
I just sat with my thoughts a lot.
Yeah.
So I keep talking and then forgetting where I was going exactly with it, but I hope the audience can connect the dots themselves.
I feel like this is the most talking you've done in any of the episodes, like combined.
Yeah. Sorry, should I talk less?
No. I mean, this is an episode about you. You are giving the quote unquote male person perspective.
Am I setting myself up to like get flamed online right now?
No.
I can't.
I don't know. Why don't you let your juicy J's defend you in this one?
Please defend me. I'm kind of scared, to be honest. I feel like I'm being so honest about it.
No, sorry, my whole butt covered the screen just then.
I'm pretty sure everyone loved it. So don't apologize.
No, I think people really like the honesty. I mean, if anything, I think that's one of the things that drew me to you is like your honesty and just how willing you are to be emotionally vulnerable as much as you keep it inside of you sometimes.
Okay, shade.
So where are we on the timeline? So right now we are during our breakup. So you broke up with me because you weren't ready to commit to like the longer term vision of things that I had planned out, which was like marriage and kids. I've discussed this a little bit in my other episode, the solo one that I did, where I talked about love and my experience with dating. The funny thing is you are my third, so I guess it is kind of true that on average people do end up being with their third.
I'm your sloppy third, huh?
Not that sloppy.
Oh.
Sometimes kind of sloppy.
Slobbery?
Yeah, very slobbery.
Yeah,
slobbery thirds.
Sure. Yeah.
My
bad.
Okay, so in the timeline at this point, we have broken up. And for some people, you know, their first breakup is the final breakup. You don't really get back together. I think I allowed you back into my life, and so we got back together. But what changed? Because from my perspective, so much changed the second time around, the second get-go. Like, it felt like these commitment concerns and these questions kind of just disappeared. Not overnight, because it took a lot of time for us to get to a point where I think like we both know equally how much we want and the timeline that we're both operating on. But what allowed you to get past that point of not wanting to commit into actual commitment?
Let me start off by saying that as like unlucky as I feel in life, as far as like the hands that I was dealt by the higher being, whoever, sorry, that was a little flippant.
You mean the bleep blurps?
The bleep blurps. Yeah. Despite the maybe unlucky cards that I feel I've been dealt by the powers that be at times, I also think I've had extremely uniquely lucky parts of my life that have happened to me. And so us being able to get back together and now having a great relationship was through no merit or credit on my end, to be honest. I think, well, there's some credit and like I'll talk about that. But it was two things. One, Sarah did things that no girls should actually do. Do not follow her as an example, because like I think 90 times out of 10 or 9 times out of 10.
9 times out of 10, yeah.
It's not going to work out that way, I think. And I think it's worked out really well for us in a way that I feel like is impossible in many other timelines.
Yeah.
So I feel really lucky about that. Sarah, perhaps stupidly, was okay getting back together with me after a few months during the pandemic. And I feel that I had a decent amount of time during those few months to really reflect about things. And like, I just obviously really missed you as a person. I really missed having you as like my partner, my girlfriend. I think you were like a source of joy in my life that I like definitely took for granted. And so I just like, I don't know what clicked, but I was just like, I think I was just being stupid. It's like, what have I done with my life during this time? Play video games with my friends at night and like wallow and like keep working my job. Like that's all I really did. And I was like, so all of the reasoning I had was clearly just like me kind of escaping or like coming up with excuses for why I wasn't like being a better person or a better man to you, right? So one was that you were just nice enough to take me back and work with me on things, and we read that book about attachment styles,
which you sent me.
And we worked on it together. We worked on being a better partner for each other, me especially being a better partner for you. And the second thing that I got lucky with is a very unlucky thing for the rest of the world, which is the pandemic, because I think without the pandemic, I feel like we would not have had the time to just like sit there and like reflect. And I don't think I would have been able, I think I would have just been like busy trying to figure out like, how do I make friends in this new city and all that other stuff. And I think you would have been, maybe you would have been dating, to be honest.
I was on Hinge for like a week out of rage.
Yeah, that's fair. I can't really say anything about that. I'm a little offended, but whatever.
Just a week.
Yeah, and so maybe you would have been like already dating around by then, you know, just to like be done with the relationship. And so I had nothing to do with that. I was just lucky that those things happened. I think the only credit to myself is that I am always really trying to like sincerely do my best. And I'm lucky that I found someone who's willing to be patient with someone who's trying to improve gradually and just be a better person. You guys are seeing like, you know, the best version of myself that I have been ever, probably. And that's just really because I feel like Sarah has been patient and loving with me and gives me the the feedback that I need to like achieve the goals that I want.
Yeah.
Because she knows the things that I want and she recognizes the things that I do that counteract those things. So she like points those things out. And so really it's just credit to Sarah, the pandemic, and my willingness to improve as a person.
Yeah. You put in a lot of work to change things that, you know, you personally need to work on for yourself, but also like for the relationship. And I am also very grateful that you are such a pensive, reflective, and willing to put in the effort kind of guy.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a team effort.
Team effort.
Okay, James also has some things that he wrote down, so we're going to go through this now. I hope you guys appreciate that James is on the podcast being so vulnerable today. I feel like a lot of these topics are hard to talk about, especially when it's so deep and near and dear to our experiences in our life. But we make this podcast for the people that listen and hope that these stories and experiences and lessons that we've learned in life can positively affect even just one of you. And then also just really big thank you for sharing. He's been so open on this podcast, and it might counteract a little bit of what his online persona is on other platforms, but we all love James, as we say in unison, the Juicy J's and the Sarah Hotties.
Well, thank you for expressing the appreciation.
Yeah.
I do think about sometimes like
the public image
if this gets clipped up, and I don't even know what I'll be doing one day. Like it's like it's definitely different from what this podcast is, but I'm really glad we have this forum to talk about stuff. Yeah, but I'm like, am I like tanking my ability to be cool?
Mr. James Sung, the creative director of Mew Mew, back in 2025.
Talking about how he was undateable.
Wait, sorry to bring it all the way back to that, but why do you think you were undateable back then? That was just something that I never asked while you were talking about it, because you were talking a lot. But
sorry,
no, I'm just kidding. I like how you overshare, but why? What in particular?
I do overshare.
What in particular makes you feel like you were undateable at that time?
Looking back, like I wasn't undateable. I think for the right person, right person, I think I am a catch. I think I can confidently say that.
Yes.
But I was just so insecure. Like I was just very insecure as a person. We went to like a pretty competitive school in that like I found it really hard to succeed a lot of the time. Like I wasn't like the best in the classes. I wasn't getting great internships. I got rejected from all these groups that I tried out for, which makes sense because I had no experience doing those things and all these other people had
Way
whatever,
more experience.
way more experience. For some of college, I had like really bad acne as well, which like tanked my confidence. So there's just all these different things. And also during high school experience didn't really help much either, right? Like being the only Asian kid in most of my classes. So it was just a lack of self-confidence that I had because of all those different things. Yeah. But I wasn't undateable. I just really felt undateable.
Do you think your confidence, well, I know your confidence has shot up, but what helped your confidence?
Well, I've always had a big ego. I've not always had a high confidence, and I still have like medium confidence.
Well, that's an interesting thing, that ego and confidence don't necessarily like correlate.
Yeah,
you know?
no, that's true.
Yeah.
I think I would probably, if I hadn't dated you, I think I would probably be more confident than I was for sure. But
wait,
I think I would be like
I thought you were gonna
terribly. I think I would still be terribly unconfident in general.
Okay.
Can you let me finish?
Okay.
Please? Maybe I should have just brought the point forward more.
No.
I really only developed my confidence through dating you. And again, ladies, do not treat men as a rehabilitation project. Like, do not date based on potential. Like, this is not
the norm.
Like, she probably shouldn't have been like that. Let's be honest. It just happened to work out in her favor that I was willing to work on stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
But you're like, did it work out really? Yeah, I only developed my confidence through things like Sarah helping me find my personal style and me realizing, oh, I could wear this thing or that thing, and oh, I look better with this. Like, I actually look pretty good when I style myself a certain way. Oh, I feel confident now because of this. Or her like giving me the praise or the positive feedback I need sometimes when I don't feel like I'm succeeding at something. She will like remind me about different things that are good about me. I think she's just been honestly like a little angel that was bestowed upon me just to help me in my life. Not that that is her job and that shouldn't be her job.
You know, if I got paid for that, I would take that job.
You would take that job?
Yeah.
How much would they pay you though?
Like hopefully $1 million a year.
Yeah, that's how much you deserve. Long story short, it's just because of you. Yeah, through dating Sarah, I became more confident. You know, the whole like boyfriend glow up, girlfriend glow up thing?
Yeah.
Like me before my girlfriend, me after. Like that's totally me for sure.
Wait, I wanted to say something because I totally forgot. When you were saying how after you started dating, not you, hypothetically, when like someone who has never been desired starts dating and they get the ego boost, I was gonna say that on the flip side, people also start paying attention when someone is now supposedly desired. Because I remember back when I was in college and I started dating you, and I think another person was also dating this like cute girl. My friend said something blasphemous. She was like, you know, I never saw James that way, but ever since he dated you, like he's been looking really good, and like this other guy's been looking really good. And there's just something about like when you
Can you introduce me to them? I'm just kidding.
No, but there is just something about the whole like air of now being a desired person that gives the ego boost, but also makes other people notice you in a different light.
You know what it is?
What is it?
What it is.
What's
what
up?
it is. When I got a Yu-Gi-Oh card that I didn't like, and I was like, oh, this sucks, and I like put it down, and my brother's like, okay, I'll take it then, and then I was like, wait, no, I want it now.
Yeah,
that's like
exactly
what it is. You
how
just see someone else want it, you're like, they must know something.
Yeah,
there's something about that thing, right?
That is what it is, ho. What's up?
Yeah.
Ladies out there, I love how you've been addressing the girly pops.
Well, if you look at your demographics, isn't it like 75% girls or something?
Yeah, but we love and respect and appreciate.
We cherish our men out there.
And also the everything else out there.
And
everyone else.
And everything.
Everything.
I feel like
cats can be listening to this and we wouldn't even know.
Exactly.
If a cat were listening, though, they'd be listening to Moose.
Moose. If he's ever back on the podcast.
Not him just like sleeping right in front of us on the floor. Like you guys don't see
Very
this.
blatant.
Anyways, was there anything else you wanted to talk about? Because we are running a little bit low on time. However, we do appreciate all the stories and everything you've shared. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I'll leave with like 2 parting words, I guess. Mm-hmm. Well, 3.
Okay.
1, like I don't know anything. Like I'm just, we just talk. It's just giving our thoughts. Sometimes I'm just like, I just say what I think.
Yeah. It's just a silly podcast
Yeah,
on the
that's not
internet.
silly, but I just, I don't know. It just,
yeah.
I want to, this is what I think, that's just it. And then two, for the men out there who are listening, if you are thinking about commitment or have struggled with commitment in the past, I feel like it is really hard to extract the different emotions behind things and why you feel a certain way. If you feel like you've been dating someone for a while and you're like, I'm not sure if they're the one for me, that could be totally valid. And it's like really hard to really understand and be honest with yourself about why you feel that way, whether you're running from something or whether they really aren't that good for you.
Yeah.
And I would just say a lot of the times, like, you have to think with your head in that scenario a lot. Like, you need to like think about or list out what are your deal breakers, what are your must-haves, what are the things that are good for you, and is this person hitting those things, and they are really good for you and you have a really good time. And if so, maybe you are just being scared of commitment. And I've seen a lot of the time where guys kind of, I don't want to say endure past it, it's more just like they understand that there are ups and downs in the ways that people feel in relationships throughout relationships in a lifelong setting, and being willing to love that person is like it's an active effort, like love is an action, right? And so I've seen a lot of guys who like bear through that time very soon, in like a year or 2 years they're like really in love with their partner again, and they're like, yeah, this is a long-term thing for sure. So that's my one tidbit for guys. For the ladies, I don't know. I don't think I have any tips remaining for the ladies, but I hope this was like insightful as far as how some guys might think about long-term commitment. It's how there are tidbits in here about how I felt about long-term commitment. Okay, here's just like one last thought, right? Okay, it's just, I'm sorry if this is editing. This is bad for editing, but
no, good.
I feel sometimes like embarrassed or ashamed of the way that I treated you sometimes. Not that I ever cheated on you or anything to that level of like bad partnership, but there are definitely times that I think back on and I'm like, she is like such a catch, right? And someone that I value so much. And oh my God, I'm not gonna.
Are you gonna cry?
Not gonna cry. No.
Wait, I'm gonna cry. I need a tissue.
Okay.
These are more tears than I expected today.
Sorry. And so the reason I'm scared about like talking about these things so openly and directly is I kind of don't want to shine the light on how I have been sometimes in the past earlier on, because it doesn't paint the best picture of me, and but it's an honest picture. And I think it's really important to remember that people can grow, and I think as long as you're willing to evolve with another person and like treat it as a partnership, I think that's what really matters, as long as you really love each other. And I am ashamed of the way I put myself before you before, and so I do apologize retroactively for that again. I know we've talked about it a lot in the past privately, and I don't know what lessons there are to take out of this. I think some people watch this podcast sometimes being like, oh, if I break up with my boyfriend, it's okay. James and Sarah did it. They're good now. Like, we can be like them. I don't think it's as common of a story for that to happen. And so many different things had to line up right for us to be able to like be here today. And I'm just thankful that I had the opportunity to become I think a much better partner. And if after all this caveating I still get clipped up and torn to shreds online, like, I can't do anything about that. But I hope this was at least like insightful look into, I don't think I can't even generalize. It's just an insight into me. It's just literally this insight into me, and I'm oversharing again, and that's fine.
But we love it.
Yeah.
You should write romance novels. That really just killed me at the last bit.
Oh.
I've cried so many times on this podcast.
It's okay. You're just a crier.
That's so sweet. Yeah. I am a crier.
Yeah.
I am a crier. Thank you for being here, not just on the podcast, but in my life.
That's okay. I can end it off. I'm
just so teary right now.
That's okay.
You made me cry.
I don't know. People might have clicked into this thinking it was like way more generic of like perspective on or commentary on guys. Really, it was just my story about my commitment to you. I also think, one last thing we didn't touch on. I know we've had a really long relationship. We started dating when we were 20.
Yeah.
So we've been dating like 7 years now, right? Like over 7 years. And there's definitely people who are like, that's really long. And I think it is long, but we like obviously met when we were so young. So like it makes more sense. But there are people who are like, why aren't they married yet? Why aren't they committed?
Oh yeah. James is trying to like do some PR service in case any of you want to hate on the fact that we haven't gotten married. We are just both ready to, but we don't have the capacity right now in our lives to. And we share a lot of our relationship and, experiences online to hopefully like help you guys, but we hope that on the receiving end you guys don't take it as a welcoming to criticize the fact that we haven't gotten married, because I know a lot of people do talk about other influencers online and the way that they've been with their partners for a long time. And just some caveating, we know we've been in a long relationship, we do want to get married to each other, but it is also our relationship and we want to take our time figuring that stuff out.
Yes.
So thank you guys for listening.
Wait.
And
I also really want to get married to Sarah in case
Yeah.
I wanted to. I have like a resting
you have a chip on your shoulder about it.
emotion. I have like an emotionless face a lot of times, so I don't want people to assume that maybe she said that speaking for the both of us. And
I see.
Yeah. Anyways, I really
yes.
want to get married to Sarah. We both want to get married to each other, and we will
Get married
in the near future.
Yes. But yeah, James always has a chip on his shoulder because I know the Did you just eat the chip?
No. I was hungry.
Put it back. Thank you guys for being patient and kind to us. And thank you for joining this week's episode. Next week's episode might toss you guys up for a little bit.
I don't know what that terminology is.
I don't know either. I always say like things that sound right, but they're not actually the right thing.
It's like the gonorrhea is a cool name. If you didn't know the meaning behind it.
Oh, yeah. It
You
is
just
a cool
say things
name.
that sound right.
Gani.
I was going to say, let us know what you think in the comments, but...
You guys are going to do that anyways.
Yeah, I guess we'll do that anyways. And thank you for showing up for us every week.
Yes.
And...
subscribe, share, and
turn
also...
on post notifications.
Yes. On YouTube. And have the best week ever.
Have the best week ever. Bye.
Bye.
Bloopers.
It's bloopers.
Just really quick tangent.
Yeah.
You did this hand motion.
Yeah, what is
I
this?
saw a TikTok that was like, Elon Musk uses like every tech CEO does this to sound smart or look smart. Like, we're shifting the paradigm of technology.
That is definitely not why I do this.
No, I know. I just thought it was funny. I was like, why does every tech CEO go like this?
Because maybe when you shift, you actually just turn a knob like that.
Shift. Yeah. Anyways, sorry, I interrupted your beautiful introduction to this episode.
Well, now you ruined it. So why don't you just take the reins?
My bad.